welcome to our first edition of Becoming Resilient with AI.
Rajiv, thank you so much for having me. Always a great pleasure to see you. But first of all, let me congratulate you on your recent certification into AI. It demonstrates that you're a lifelong learner, just like me, and we're going
Yeah.
learning
And the
journey.
fu- and the funny thing is, the information is already a bit outdated.
There you go. So it makes sense to be, a lifelong learner, and everything you have learned is applicable for the future. So that's a good thing. But again,
Definitely,
so much for
yeah.
having me. I feel very, very happy to be here.
I feel honored to have you here, Giorgio. And however, let's go to business. This is our first episode, and we'll be focusing on the opportunities and risk for MSMEs. In our context, it will be micro, medium, small to medium size enterprises. I do think that the information we'll share today should be applicable to you. Definitely feel free to put in your questions or comments in the comment section. We'll handle them at during the presentation. So let's jump into the elephant in the room.
Mm.
According to a study done by MSCI, almost 40% of current jobs, will be disrupted by AI. So I want to immediately jump into the question we have. Actually, the big elephant in this room: is AI going to replace our jobs in general?
Great question. Okay, let's go to the slide because this is a question about fear, right? And today we're going to talk about that fear, but also the opportunity and risk that is associated with that. So, for small, medium sized enterprises and people that are working in these environments, this question always remains, right? Will AI replace me? Now, to answer that question, Rajiv, I have searched up a video that illustrates something very interesting. It's about Formula One pit stops. Now, I'm going to play this video, and I want you to observe three different times in the past: the 1950s, almost 70 years ago, 2009, and 2013. And the car represents technology progression, and observe the people around the car as they are, doing the pit stop, right?
But Holland comes in for a pit stop. Time to reach.
Now, there are a couple of things you will observe. Like, of course, in 2013, it goes much faster. So, number one, AI will make us more efficient. Technology makes us more efficient. That's the first answer to the question. But then the most important question is, will AI replace my job, right? Now, if you look in this back in the 50s, and I'm going to pause this right here, this guy in gray, his job is to give the driver coffee or something to drink. Now, that guy's job in 2013 no longer exists. So that guy's job is gone for sure. That's one observation. The other observation that is interesting here when you look at it is that the amount of people also increase. So it is not necessarily the case that when technology progress and we become more efficient that we need less people. In the case of Formula One, we need more people. And you may say, Rajiv, well, gee, this is not AI. And I would say, Rajiv, I will beg to differ because a McLaren car is a driving computer. It generates terabytes of data, and you need lots and lots of algorithms to turn that data into meaningful information to have all these guys do their jobs, right? So I'll pause it here again. Will AI replace my job? Probably, if you have a job that is automatable, that is, the simple stuff that can be automated, yes. Will AI create jobs? Absolutely, because if you look into the future, the McLaren team here in red, there are more people there and there are more specialized people. What do they do? Well, as we're producing AI, we need people to produce all these AI. We need people to maintain all these AI. We need people to upgrade all these AI. So AI will replace jobs, but at the same time, it will always create more jobs. So it's a nuanced answer to that question. Now, will AI change my job? That's a slightly different question, right? And for small medium enterprises, you have to look at it from a business model point of view. Now, I hope that most of the people here are familiar with a business model canvas, right? This is a great picture to show how a business works. You start in the middle, your value proposition. That's basically the thing you sell. And if you move to the right, it talks about your marketing and sales, right? So what is the channel that you sell your things into, and how do you build relationship with your customer? Well, that part of the business model definitely will change, and that's where AI comes in. There are lots and lots of tools to help you in one, creating better value proposition, especially if you're in the world of digital propositions, writers, digital creators. AI has a lot of tools to help you there. Even for the writers community, right? ChatGPT is kind of like heaven. It helps you to unlock all your writer's block and express yourself in a much more efficient and more personalized way if you're really good at it. So there's also things for channel marketing. So you think of social media engagement, email marketing. All of these things are things that you used to do on paper, or you use these old school software. With this new AI revolution, there are AI tools that can help you with that. Now, I promise we will talk about opportunities and risk. I want to talk a little bit about the risk here. One risk is, you see, there are paid version and free version. One of the first risks in AI is, don't buy all the stuff that you see. Some of them don't work well. So the risk is you're going to lose a lot of money thinking you're buying intelligence, but you're buying basically a little bit of pre-work, and that might give you more work. So be careful what you buy. I would say try before you buy. And that's why we put a lot of free versions of these tools here. Like, try it out. Get into the lifelong learning, just like you, Rajiv. Try new things. And if it works, if it sticks, then you zoom deeper into it. Another risk is, once you start using these tools, you might forget how you used to do it before these tools. So be careful about what we call skills deprivation. There are certain skills that you might lose because now you're using AI, and now you don't know how to do it in the old school way again. Now we talk about business model, right? There are two pieces to it: the market and sales side when you go towards the right, but it's also your core activity, right? What do you do in your company? And the same thing applies here. There are so many AI tools that are out there now that can help you with the core activities in your small or medium-sized company, right? Think about the core activity of knowledge management, creating contracts, managing all these contracts. Now, I'm not going to go through all these tools because we might not have enough time, but I'll pick one or two to determine how we use it in our company. For example, Notion. Very interesting knowledge management tool, and you can even connect it to other AI tools. That's where we manage contracts, we manage our digital content that we're creating for education or for consulting. All of that stuff we manage in Notion. There's also another thing called Kajabi. If you want to create, if you're into the educational space and you want to sell your knowledge, Kajabi is a wonderful platform to do that. And it helps you to organize your course material according to how your learners will learn. So these are tools that are in
Yeah.
your activity realms, right? In the
Yes.
backend.
Now
Go
let's
ahead.
pause a bit.
Mhm.
This might be overwhelming for some of the viewers.
All right.
So what we'll do is we'll send a summary of all these tools at the end of the next week in an email, separate email, and
Mhm.
also a big summary of what we've discussed today. But just pausing a bit. There's a famous saying: if you're not paying for something, you might be the product. So also when it comes to the free AI tools, be aware that you are the product. Your information and data that you're putting into the system is will be used to continue to train the AI model. So can you talk about that risk as well? That you shouldn't possibly shouldn't put in proprietary information.
That's a very good point, Rajiv. Because as an AI creator myself, sometimes we create applications, right, even for other companies, and you would want to test your application for early adopters to learn quickly. And what you typically want to do is learn from your first users, right? They give feedback, so you want to give the software away for free. That is the philosophy. But many software that are for free are overusing and maybe misusing this opportunity of people using the software for free. So be careful as an AI user. When you're an AI user and you don't pay, you kind of pay with your data. You pay with your use because that's what the AI creator uses to improve their technology. So that's a very good point when it comes to risk. When you're using AI, be careful if it's free. And it is absolutely a red sign and a red flag to using very personalized data into all these chat type of machines. ChatGPT is one of them, Gemini, etc. Your proprietary data, once you upload it or you chat about it, it is not necessarily the case that you can take it out again. It's very difficult. So it's a way to leak company information or your personal information. So that's a big warning flag. Thank you for highlighting that. Big risk.
Yeah, and from a personal standpoint, one way we use AI in our company is that a funny way actually is, so I won't go into the ChatGPT side, all those language models that helped us update our content.
Mhm.
But a funny way we used AI was to um, have what do you call it? When you call a company's phone, you
These
get a
auto.
robot, right? Press one for and press two. Well, we use a tool to you can either use Morgan Freeman's a famous celebrity's voice to welcome you to the
Yeah.
company. So in our case, we use Elon Musk's voice, but that's just a preference. But that's just as an example of what the opportunities are, and we've done it with a free tool actually. So,
And
but
and this is a great example, right? To see the first level of adoption of all these tools is that people are becoming more productive and creative in a way because you can do more. Instead of talking with your own voice, you can use someone else's voice. Instead of writing in your own style, you can have someone else's style and write even more. So yes, you see that productivity gain coming as well. Now, there is a dark side to that, Rajiv, and that's also something we need to talk about, especially with election coming up in different countries in the US, and I'm sure
exactly.
Suriname is also coming. When you're cloning voices and using voices to automate responses, you could also imagine the misuse of it, right? Like I use your voice to call someone you know to take some money out of your bank account, for example. Now, this is the misuse of AI that we need to be aware of. Now, we're using celebrity voices, but it's becoming more and more easier to kind of clone someone that is not so famous voice to do all kinds of nefarious things. So we need to be careful about that part. But at the same time, Gen AI is so revolutionary. We talked about it, right? Let me dive into the next slide about the different ways of working with Gen AI. You mentioned using Morgan Freeman's voice to automatically answer a incoming phone call, right? This is the way you would use what they call these large language models. Now, a large language model is a model that is able to understand natural language. So you can ask him any question and it would generate an answer in text, now even in video, and as you mentioned, in audio. The audio is a trick. You have to do the text first, and then you have the text to speech or the speech to text kind of engine to translate that into an audio version, right? But these LLMs are smart enough to have an interaction. But one thing the LLM is not good at, and you will see it in many situations with ChatGPT, they say, well, it doesn't give the right answer, or it hallucinates. You know, when they say that it
Yeah.
hallucinates, that basically means he's saying what I'm not expecting him to say or it to say.
Yeah.
Well, the way to overcome that is what they call a RAG, a retriever augmented generator. And is not necessarily to zoom into all of the little pieces on the slide, and the audience will get the slides, right? So they can zoom in later. But what you will see with RAG is that you have to create a little bit more intelligence before you get into the LLM. And that intelligence is you make sure that if you ask a question, the system goes to a place where he knows that the source of truth is, so that he doesn't make any wrong mistakes when it comes to facts, right? So he will check out the facts and then go to the LLM to answer the question. So that's the RAG model. So the RAG model really improves your accuracy. You can also dynamically update your knowledge base. So a RAG could, for example, means let's say the legal system of a country, right? So in that database would be all the legal documents. And you cannot rely on OpenAI to update that on a regular basis. So that's what a RAG would do. Now, what RAGs cannot do is to automatically do complex tasks like, hey, Rajiv, could you check out a flight for me in December because I'm going to come to Suriname with my family? That's a very complex task. Now, that's where agents comes in, because an agent can take a question like I just asked you and break it down into a complex piece of task coordination, and it will
Yeah.
solve the problem, right? It will go to different environments, go to klm.com, check out the potential flights, check out my budget, and then come back and then maybe even go to my wallet and pay for the ticket. Now that's even more complex. That's where we're going with these agents. So what we're seeing now with ChatGTP coming back is all LLM stuff. We're just talking to these machines. But at a
Mhm.
certain point in time, these machines, these agents will be able to do stuff. And that's the super exciting things that we're working on this side of the ocean. Like, hey, what can you do with these agents? And what kind of tasks can they help us to solve? Now, going back to the race car, if your job today is to bring machine to do a simple thing for the doctor, you can imagine an agent can do that much faster and 24/7. So it could answer calls, it could schedule a visit, it could even do some repeated prescriptions. But before you do that, you really need to make sure that it works very well, because especially in my area of healthcare, we cannot afford a lot of errors, right? Because it's about human lives. So it has to be
Yeah.
yeah.
We've we've reached our we're almost at our 20 minute mark. Very interesting part. So before we continue, I think this is your last slide, right, Giorgio?
Yes.
Before we enter into that the discussions and questions we have, just looking at this, right? You have the LLM part, the RAG part, and then the agents. This, from a complexity standpoint, it get complex, more even complexer as you move from left to right. But
Mhm.
cost wise, it also becomes more it increases. But on a business benefit side of things,
Mhm.
that the returns are also much more interesting. Um, can you maybe put in context how the impact on the job side of things can be perceived from LLM to RAG to agents? Because potentially, I'm perceiving that some jobs are going to be replaced if we're talking about agents.
Yes, yes, that you're absolutely right. But here's the thing about cost, right? You may be able to replace someone in your team with an agent. But just like with the race car that we've seen in the beginning, you need to hire people to create this agent. And maybe
Mhm.
you need more expensive people to replace that person that you're trying to replace. So you need to make that business case. Like, is it worth it? Right? So that's where it comes in. Like, yes, you can do all these fancy stuff, but you need to make sure you're solving a problem in an economic sensible way. And that's where a lot of AI startups are making a big mistake by creating all these very expensive things that cost €1 and you can only charge your customers 50 cents. So you're basically hustling backwards because you're making a loss on every transaction because it costs more to produce that smartness than you can sell it. Now, just to make sure that we open it up for other people, right? I got a Q&A for you here. Now, I'm going to show you this video about what you could do in the future, right? You could do this for a customer, of course.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to ask you to explain to me what kind of AI you see here.
Hey, mambo, mambo Italiano, hey, mambo, mambo Italiano, go, go, go.
I'm just enjoying the video, and I'm pretty much hungry now. But besides that,
So
I
this
think it's all of the, well, I would say, and you could put a LLM into it to ask you what you want exactly, generate blah blah blah, and then there's a rack behind it, and I think I would put those two, but you can also put in an agent.
That's where that's exactly the point, right? It's a combination of things to solve a problem. So this could be like, I want to make a marketing video for a new Bami house in Suriname, and I want to make it cool, but I want the Bami to dance ballet. Now, you need to be able to prompt that idea to make it come alive. And that's where the different technologies comes in to get, the dancing Bami stuff that we're seeing here. So I would like to leave it at that and to open the floor up for some of the questions that you may have, because there's so much more that we will be diving into, but this is just scratching the surface of opportunities, and we also talk about the risk and the fear, because if you're a marketing person, even I can do a marketing video like that. So a person with AI will replace you quicker than AI alone.
There's a topic I want to put in at the end if there's room, and that's about AI cannibalism. But it's not really what we think. But before I go into that part, there was something we spoke a little bit about some policies, right? So let's say we adopt all of these AI tools. It would be necessary and advisable to adopt an AI policy. We'll have a separate in our webinar discussing the corporate governance side of it, or really just governance side of it. We'll dive deeper into that, as well as a separate webinar on healthcare and education. So just want to make that remark for the questions for the people that are having that same thought. So back to the AI cannibalism. So basically, let's say we are generating a lot of video content, AI content, right? Let's say we have a lot of these Bami videos out there. What happens if we use the AI generated videos to also train our AI models? Some call it AI cannibalism, but how and how will that impact? I read a report that it leads to gibberish at the end. So what's your take on it?
Great question. And I would agree with the latter. It leads to gibberish in the end, because the training set that you're giving the model determines how smart it is, right? So if you train your AI on Wikipedia, you can imagine that it's going to be pretty smart in terms of facts that it knows. But if you continue to generate all kinds of nonsense and you put that as the training, then it generates nonsense. The difference between nonsense and Wikipedia is that people are really thinking about what they put on Wikipedia, whether it's right or wrong, but people are thinking about it. When you generate synthetic data, it could be like this Bami video, right? It's beautiful, but it doesn't make sense. So you're going to have a lot of nonsense in the data. I call it incest, data incest. And nothing with incest leads to something good, right? It's like, making children in one family kind of thing. And it's the same with data. You produce a lot of data by yourself and it's not human created. And you can imagine it will lead to nonsense. You're seeing this even in the bigger LLMs, right? The new models are not necessarily better. It's there's a lot of nonsense on the web. A lot of books right now, a lot of books that people wrote with GPTs, they're not great, right? It's just more books, but not better books. Yeah. So
This is definitely an introduction to the topical, the webinar where we'll talk about impact on education. So how how we can still be relevant in that as a human with our human intelligence.
yeah,
So circling back to the business side of things, we've talked about some risks on the AI side, a lot of and also some opportunities. Can you what's happening on the other side of the ocean, on your side? Biggest opportunity that you're seeing that might be applicable to Suriname?
well, from an opportunity point of view, there is a lot that needs to be done with AI, especially around RAGs, uh, making sure that the AI works well. There's a lot of opportunity there for fine tuning. And there's not enough fine tuners, if you ask me, because that's why you see so many models not working well. That's one part of it from a employment point of view, right? Like,
Mhm.
remember like 15, 20 years ago, we talk about mobile computing, build games for mobiles. We talked about that. You were still young, right? This is the same kind of opportunity. Like if you're stepping into technology these days, it'll be great to step into AI and zoom into the agentization and fine tuning if you're a young person. From a business point of view, AI really helps you to be broader thinking in your business, right? From export and either value proposition, your market, etc. AI will really help you to reach a broader customer base, I think, and even internationalize your business even more than before. So that's the business opportunity that provides.
Giorgio, we're reaching the 28-minute mark.
Oh my goodness,
Um,
that's quick.
yeah, that went fast. Just
Yeah.
to almost close, um, lost my train of thought. But uh, if you if as a Surinamese company or
Mm.
any Caribbean company, if your enterprise data that is not so of a high quality, can I still implement? Can I use it for training AI models?
Absolutely. You can absolutely do that. And I would even turn it around. Like, what is the business problem that you're trying to solve? I think you will start with that. And then come to, is AI the right way to solve this business problem? And I'm sure in many cases, that's the case. You can solve business problem cheaper, faster with AI technology these days.
But Giorgio, oh, there's also a famous saying: "Garbage in is garbage out." If your data is not of good quality, won't you get biased data or something in that sense?
Yes and no. It depends, right? So before you build a model, I would go to do some data cleansing as well, and to
Exactly.
structure your data and to make sure that even if you start with, let's say, poor quality data, you can make it better before you start. And that's a better starting point than with no data at all, right? Yeah. So it's not ideal, but it's still a way to start. And you can always improve as you go.
It seems that we might want to have an extension because some questions are coming in. Just
Oh,
for all of everyone else that is might be hopping off since we're at the 30-minute mark, send us if you have a business case for your company, definitely send us an email at info@ai.sr, and we'll make sure to follow up with you on that request. I'm going to put up a question that has been raised. With your permission, Giorgio, let's extend for a few minutes more and handle the two questions that are in, and then we can close. So one of our first question we have here from Liana is: Can you explain something about bias mitigation? So I talked a little bit about possible bias in your existing data, but how can we mitigate with that? You mentioned cleansing. Is there anything else we can do with it?
great question. So let me talk about bias a little bit, right? Like if you go to ChatGPT and say, draw me a pilot then you will get a white person, probably a man. And you can get angry and say, that's biased because I would want to see maybe a Chinese woman. But it's also about your prompt, right? Because what GPT always does is give you the average, most probabilistic option. So if you just say, draw me a pilot, you'll get something you might call a bias. Now, the way to mitigate bias is be more precise in prompting. Draw me a Asian female pilot. That's different. Now, this is the inference from model. When you train the model, you should also know that there might be biases, right? Like if you take data from, let's say, the eastern part of Suriname, you may know that there are certain people that are underrepresented in the east of Suriname, right? So that's a bias in your data. So when you train it, before you use it, you should say it's trained on the eastern side of Suriname. Just like ChatGPT is trained on Western data. So you're from Suriname, you probably know some Aztec history, right? Like if you ask him about Montezuma or Huitzilopochtli, he might not know that because that data is not into the training set. So that's also bias by mitigation. There's not a lot of African data inside GPT.
Yeah.
If you ask question about those things, you might get the bias answer. So
I
bias
want. Yeah.
mitigation is two ways: the training and the inference. Yeah.
That's a very good point. And but I also want to put it back into the previous slide you had with the LLMs. At a certain point, you can infuse with your prompts. You can infuse what you want to get out of it. So let's say if you would use DALI to generate images about Suriname,
Mm-hmm.
60% or 70% you'll get data. You'll see the Surinamese flag infused with a Dutch with a Dutch flag. I
Yeah.
had that's basically that's the data it's working on, but at a certain point you won't be able to use the prompts to mitigate some of the bias, and you'll have to go into a rack, build your own with your own data set, where you have done your proper data cleansing. So I think it's good to manage those expectation, and going back to your slide, you have more control over on bias mitigation as you go from LLMs to RAG to agents. I hope we answered Diana her question
Excellent.
with that. And I think we can move to the last one. So Ryan asked if you, from a standpoint of output of AI, how can we ensure the quality of the output, and how will we need to do the screening? Um, let's keep it simple, Giorgio.
Yeah, this is a great question. If you ask the LLM a question and ask him to answer in Arabic, if you don't speak Arabic, you won't know if it's good or not. So domain expertise is still very important, or else you're going to believe the LLM and not know what the LLM says. And AI is not a religion, so you still need knowledge to know what the LLM says. So it's the human that determines the quality of the output. That's a very simple answer to that, but we can dive deeper into that.
Indeed, indeed. And just to, as we're moving to close, um, there's our next session is in August, where we'll discuss on the impact of AI and education. Um, but before we close, is there a key message we want to leave with the audience that presumably is around in the MSME space?
Well, thank you for this opportunity, first of all, Rajiv. This was great. I really enjoyed it. And we're going to have 12 of these sessions, right, where we will be coming back to it. What I will want to leave from this in this first session is fear is not a strategy. You have to face it and really get your hands dirty with AI. That's one. Two, there are opportunities, but there are also risks. And we talk about them, right? Like the risk of bias, but also overusing and overspending on these things. Now, the second session, we will be talking about education. Now, education is not only for educators and teachers and students, but it's actually for every one of us. In that session, I think we should really dive into what it means to be an AI user, what it means to be an AI creator, and we're also going to talk about regulating AI for yourself, right? And also for others. Because we won a education prize at the University of Amsterdam. You were there. You were
Yeah.
there for the session. So we're going to use some of that to share with our audience, like what we've learned, creating things with AI, but also using it. So I think this is part of the journey of becoming resilient. So again, thank you, Rajiv. I really look forward to the next session, and this was fun.
Amazing, Giorgio. Just to recap, his first key message was fear. Fear is not a strategy, and with opportunity also comes risks. I thanks everyone that is tuning in right now, and we'll see you in our next session in August on education. And look forward to our emails next week with our summary. I'm saying bye for now and see you soon.